Can you imagine being pregnant, homeless, and begging on the streets? Now picture a millionaire pulling up and proposing marriage out of nowhere.
She was 5 months pregnant, thrown out by her in-laws, and forced to beg on the street, until a mysterious millionaire pulled up and said, "I have a proposal for you."
What happened next? You won't believe how her story ends.
If you're just tuning into Innocent Stories for the first time, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Also, share this video with your friends and family, and tell us where you're watching from.
Zinab didn't notice the speeding buses or the shouting hawkers anymore.
She had become numb to the noise, to the movement, to the life that went on around her, as if she didn't exist. Her world had shrunk to this corner, this hard patch of pavement where she sat every day, holding her stomach and trying not to cry. Her hand rested on her 5-month belly. Her fingers trembled, not just from hunger, but from shame. Hunger could be ignored sometimes, but the shame, it screamed. She pulled her legs closer, adjusted the thin scarf over her head, and tried not to look at anyone's eyes. The ones who looked at her with disgust were easier to bear than the ones who looked at her with pity.
Pity felt like acid on her skin. She had nothing.
No money, no phone, no home, and worst of all, no one. Just 4 weeks ago, Zinab was in the hospital. She had rushed there with a flask of hot pap, ready to feed her husband after his morning tests.
Kola had been feeling weak, and the doctor had asked him to stay overnight for observation.
She remembered walking in that morning with hope in her chest, smiling at the nurses, waving politely.
But everything changed in a second.
The doctor met her in the hallway.
"Mrs. Bello, I'm sorry." She froze. "Sorry for what? Where is my husband?"
The doctor's expression broke her. "He passed away in the early hours."
"We tried our best."
She stood there, unmoving, her mouth slightly open.
"That's not possible. I just saw him yesterday. He said he was fine.
He said it was just back pain." "Your husband had advanced pancreatic cancer," the doctor said gently.
"He knew. He didn't tell anyone. He was protecting you."
Zinab felt the floor disappear beneath her. When she finally entered the room and saw Kola's lifeless body, something inside her cracked. She fell to her knees, placed her head on his chest, and wailed like a child. 1 week later, she stood at the gate of Kola's family house, her hospital bag still in her hand.
She was supposed to be resting. She was supposed to be surrounded by love.
Instead, she was treated like a stranger.
Nobody offered her food. Nobody asked if she had eaten.
Kola's mother didn't speak a word to her for 3 days, and when the insults came, they came without mercy.
"You came into this family with empty hands, and now you want to eat what you didn't sow," his sister, Ronk, spat. "Mommy never liked you. We all just accepted you because of Kola.
And now you've used your witchcraft to kill him.
There's nothing left for you here."
Zinab stood her ground. "I am carrying his child."
Ronk hissed. "Which child? The one that hasn't even been born? Get out. He left nothing for you."
They didn't even let her sleep one more night. The next morning, her clothes were packed into a nylon bag and thrown outside. They locked the gate and told her to go wherever she came from.
That's how she ended up here.
Now, every day, she sat in this corner and watched people live, watched mothers carry their children, wives hold their husbands' hands, young girls laugh with friends. All the things she used to have, now gone like a puff of smoke. She had stopped praying, stopped hoping.
Until today. A black SUV pulled up beside her.
The engine was quiet, the window slowly lowered, and a man leaned out. Well-dressed, calm, he looked at her directly.
"Good afternoon," he said. Zinab was confused. No one ever greeted her. "Good afternoon," she replied cautiously.
He stared at her for a moment, then said, "I have a proposal for you, ma'am."
Her eyes narrowed. What kind of proposal? He didn't smile. He wasn't playing. "I have twin daughters. Their mother left. I've been raising them alone. I need help.
Someone who can care for them, guide them, be a mother to them."
He paused, then added, "Marry me. Just on paper. I'll give you shelter, food, peace. You'll take care of the girls. I'll take care of you and your unborn child. No romance, no pressure. We stay together for the kids." Zinab stared at him like he had just fallen from the sky. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. And just like that, her world was about to change again. What would you do if a stranger offered you a new life, but with strings attached? Stay with Innocent Stories to see how Zinab's choice unfolds. Zinab didn't sleep that night. She lay on the same corner of the street, her scarf tied tightly over her head, her back pressed to the wall, but her mind refused to rest. Her fingers kept brushing over the edge of the card he had given her. Idris, that was his name. Just 5 letters printed neatly above a phone number. What kind of man drives up to a pregnant beggar and proposes marriage like it's a business deal? She had replayed his words in her head at least 50 times. "You'll take care of my girls, I'll take care of you." Just like that. No questions about where she was from. No lectures, no suspicions. Just a proposal. By morning, her lips were dry again, her bones aching. Her legs were stiff, but her mind was sharper than it had been in weeks. When the morning rush began, conductors screaming, school kids running, traders dragging their wheelbarrows, Zinab was already up, brushing off the dust from her wrapper. She didn't know what she was going to do, but she knew one thing. She was tired. Tired of begging. Tired of humiliation. Tired of her baby shifting in her belly like it, too, wanted a better life. At exactly 8:05 a.m., the black SUV pulled up again. Zinab didn't wait for him to speak this time. She stood and walked to the passenger side as the window rolled down. "Good morning," she said. He nodded. "Did you think about it?" "I don't know what kind of man makes that kind of offer to a woman he knows nothing about," she replied honestly, "but I've thought about it all night." She took a deep breath. "I'll come with you." He opened the door. "Get in." She hesitated for one full second. Her entire body froze. Then she stepped in. The air conditioning felt like heaven. The seats were soft, the car clean and silent inside. She sat still, hands on her lap. "I hope I'm not walking into a trap," she said quietly. Idris glanced at her from the corner of his eye. "No traps, just ground rules. You're not here to be a wife in the romantic sense. This is an arrangement for the sake of the children. You'll live in the house, take care of them, and I'll provide for you and your baby. We keep things respectful. When the time comes, if you want to leave, you're free to go." Zinab nodded slowly. "Understood." The car drove past Ecoe Bridge, past gated estates and security posts, until it finally turned into a large white mansion with tall fences and clean gardens. Zinab's eyes widened as she stepped out. The house was quiet, grand, intimidating. A middle-aged woman in uniform came out of the house, holding a small towel. She paused when she saw Zinab. "Madam?" "Sir," she asked. "This is Zinab," Idris said calmly. "She's staying with us now. Get the guest room ready." Zinab stood awkwardly, not sure what to do with her hands. But the house smelled like soap and polish. The floors were tiled. There were flowers in a vase at the entrance. She hadn't been in a clean home since Kola died. Amaka, the housekeeper, led her upstairs to a beautiful room with pale green curtains and a wide bed. "This is too much," Zinab whispered. "Sir said to make you comfortable," Amaka replied with a neutral tone. When she was alone, Zinab sat on the edge of the bed, held her belly, and cried quietly. She wasn't sad. She wasn't even afraid. She was just overwhelmed. By afternoon, Idris returned from work and knocked on her door. "Get dressed," he said. "We're going shopping." Zinab's mouth fell open. "Shopping? You can't live here looking like you slept on the street. I'll wait in the car." At the boutique, she tried on maternity gowns, new slippers, bras, and a decent handbag. Her hair was washed and braided.
When she looked in the mirror afterward, she hardly recognized herself.
Idris didn't say much.
He simply paid for everything and handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Pocket money, in case you need anything." Zinab looked at him carefully.
"Why are you doing all this for me?"
He was silent for a moment, then said, "Because the last 6 nannies ran away, and I have 2 daughters who make grown women cry." Zinab chuckled softly.
"That bad? You'll find out soon enough."
They returned to the house in silence. And just before bedtime, Amaka knocked and handed Zinab 2 sets of tiny uniforms.
"Tomorrow is school. The twins will meet you in the morning."
Zinab shut her door slowly and leaned against it. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe.
Zinab woke up early.
Not because of noise or discomfort, but because her body was used to hardship. Sleeping on a real bed felt too good to trust. For the first time in weeks, she had slept indoors under a roof without fear of being chased away.
The pillow still smelled of new laundry.
By 6 a.m., she was up, dressed in one of the simple gowns she had bought the day before.
She stood by the window and watched the compound below.
The security man was watering flowers.
A gardener was sweeping. The silence was beautiful. At 6:30, a knock came. Amaka peeked in. "They're awake." Zinab's heart jumped. She followed Amaka downstairs, rehearsing in her head, "Be calm. Be kind. Don't overreact."
But nothing could have prepared her for what she saw. Twin hurricanes in pink pajamas. The living room looked like a tornado had passed through.
Toys everywhere. Milk spilled on the carpet.
One twin was standing on the couch, yelling, "I want jelly bread," while the other sat on the floor with cornflakes all over her head, laughing like a tiny maniac. Zinab's mouth fell open. "These are the girls."
"Tara and Tanya," Amaka muttered. "Good luck."
Before Zinab could speak, the one on the couch, Tanya, turned and screamed, "Who are you?"
"Another nanny?" Zinab raised a brow. "You must be Tanya."
The girl folded her arms.
"I don't like you."
Zinab stepped forward and picked up a teddy bear from the ground.
"That's okay.
I didn't like pap when I was your age, but guess what?
I still had to eat it." Tanya blinked.
Tara, the quieter twin, got up and walked over, staring curiously at Zinab's stomach.
"Why is your tummy big? Did you eat too much rice?" Zinab smiled. "There's a baby in there." Tara gasped. "Is it going to pop out today?" "Not today." "Next week?" "Definitely not next week." Tara tilted her head. "Can I name it?" Zinab chuckled. "Let's survive this morning first."
From the hallway, Idris watched the exchange silently. He had expected screaming, crying, maybe even a bite or two, but instead, the girls were listening.
Curious, even smiling. He raised a brow. That was new. Later that morning, Zinab helped them get dressed.
It took 20 minutes to brush their hair, another 15 to find matching socks, and 10 more to convince Tanya to wear shoes. By the time she buckled them into the back seat of the car, she was sweating like she had run a marathon. Idris joined them in front, glancing back once. "They didn't throw anything at you?" he asked dryly. "They tried," Zinab said, adjusting her headscarf. "I ducked." He smirked. "You might survive after all." When they arrived at the twins' school, a colorful Montessori center filled with noisy children and polished teachers, Zinab held each girl by the hand and walked them in. Some mothers whispered, some fathers stared, but Zinab didn't care. The girls waved as she left. Tanya even smiled. On the way back, Idris said nothing, but his fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel, and there was something lighter in the air between them. When they got home, Zinab went to her room and collapsed on the bed. She hadn't done that much walking in a long time, but as she stared at the ceiling, she found herself smiling. That night, around 8 p.m., she tucked the girls into bed. Tara wanted a bedtime story. Tanya wanted a song. Zinab did both. When she turned to leave, she heard soft breathing. Both girls asleep. As she stepped into the hallway, she found Idris leaning against the wall, arms folded. "You sang badly," he said. Zinab replied, "They never sleep before 10 o'clock. They're exhausted. They spend half the evening arguing about who the baby will like more." He stared at her. "Thank you." She shrugged. "I'm just doing what I was asked to do." But in her heart, she knew she was already doing more. Later that night, she found a small tray outside her room. Rice, stew, fried plantain, and a note that read, "You're doing well. Eat something. Idris." Zinab sat at the edge of her bed, holding the note like it was made of gold. Something inside her softened. She had been a beggar just days ago. Now she was tucking children into bed and receiving thank you notes. Maybe, just maybe, life was not done with her yet. The next morning started with a scream. Not Zinab's, Tanya's. "I said I want my toast shaped like a rabbit." Zinab stood in the kitchen doorway, holding a tray of neatly sliced bread and eggs. "Well, unfortunately, I am not a magician. So today, you're getting rectangles." "Fancy rectangles?" Tanya folded her arms across her chest. "Then I'm not eating." "Perfect," Zinab replied, setting the tray on the table with a smile. "More for Tara." Tara gasped, already halfway through her cocoa cereal. "Yes." Tanya's eyes widened. "No, I changed my mind." She jumped off the chair and raced to the table, stuffing bread in her mouth like she hadn't sworn off food just 5 seconds ago. From the stairs, Idris watched with quiet amusement. They were 3 days in, and Zinab hadn't cracked. The twins had thrown tantrums, hidden school shoes, painted the bathroom mirror with toothpaste, and yet she still looked calm. Actually, she looked annoyingly calm. That afternoon, Idris called her to his study. Zinab walked in, slightly tense. "Yes?" "Sit," he said. "She Saturday, there are a few house rules we should agree on," he began. She nodded. "Go ahead." "No going through my things. No entering my room without knocking. No introducing the children to random visitors." "I don't have visitors," she said. He paused. "Good. Also, no sleeping in the living room. No gossiping with staff." Zinab raised a brow. "Is this a contract or a marriage?" He blinked. "It's a partnership. With one very dramatic job description," she added. He leaned back. "You think this is easy?" "No," she replied, smiling faintly. "That's why the other 6 nannies ran away, right?" He blinked again. "They didn't run. They resigned." "One left her shoes at the gate," Zinab said calmly. "That's not resignation. That's escape." Idris tried not to laugh. He failed. She watched him for a second, then stood. "Are we done with the rules?" "Yes." "Good, because I need to go break up a fight over a toothbrush." As she turned to leave, Idris called out, "Zinab." She turned. "Thank you." She shrugged. "Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen what they did to the guest bathroom." That evening, the girls returned from school full of energy and mischief. Tanya declared she wanted to be a queen and wore a white bedsheet as a cape. Tara decided to be a lion and crawled around the living room, growling and licking people's legs. Zinab tried to convince them to do homework. Tanya said, "Queens don't do homework." Tara added, "And lions eat homework." Amaka almost fainted. "Madam, please come and see what they're doing to your curtains." Idris walked in just as Zinab was lifting Tara off the armrest and Tanya was demanding she be carried to the throne. "I thought we agreed no animals in the house," he asked dryly. Zinab sighed. "This isn't a house. This is a zoo." That night, after the girls finally went to bed after arguing about who got to hug Zinab first, Idris found himself standing outside her door with a tray again. This time, it was yam porridge and grilled fish. Zinab opened the door before he knocked.
Do you always do food delivery at night? He handed her the tray. You missed dinner. Because I was convincing your daughter that her bedsheet isn't royal fabric. He smiled. She's very imaginative. She's very dramatic, she said. He laughed. She didn't mean to smile, but she did. I'll leave you to eat, he said, turning. Wait, she said. Idris. He looked back. Do you ever regret this arrangement? He was quiet for a second. No. But I didn't expect you to handle them this well. I've had practice, she said softly, placing a hand on her belly. He gave a small nod. Good night, Zinab. Good night. Idris wasn't a jealous man. At least, that's what he used to believe, until his friend Dio showed up on Saturday afternoon. Dio was tall, loud, and the kind of man who always had something to say. He arrived unannounced, as usual, breezing into the house in jeans and sunglasses like he owned it. Guy! Dio shouted, slapping Idris on the back. You've been hiding this mansion and this beautiful woman from us. Zinab was just coming down the stairs with Tara and Tanya, dressed in a simple fitted gown. Her belly peeked through the fabric gently, and her skin was glowing, likely from all the good food and actual rest she'd been getting. Dio stared at her a little too long. Wow, so this is the new arrangement, he asked, grinning. No wonder you stopped replying to my texts. Zinab raised a brow. Excuse me? Idris cleared his throat. She's not a discussion topic. Zinab turned to the twins. Girls, come with me. Let the grown men behave like children. Tanya shouted, Uncle Dio looks like a tomato. Tara added, but an old one. Zinab gasped. Apologize right now. Dio laughed so hard he had to hold the railing. I like these girls. Idris, however, was not laughing. In fact, his jaw was tight. Later that day, while Zinab was in the kitchen helping Amaka prepare lunch, Dio walked in, leaning casually against the doorframe. So, Zinab, tell me something. How does a woman like you end up here? You look like you belong on a magazine cover, not sitting outside begging. Zinab didn't look up from slicing vegetables. Life happened. It happens to the best of us. Still, Dio said, smiling. You've got that rare kind of beauty. You ever think of leaving this deal and trying something more exciting, like me, for instance? Zinab turned slowly. Do you usually flirt with pregnant women cooking stew? He laughed. Depends on how beautiful they are. Just then, Idris walked in. Dio, can I see you in my study? Now. Dio blinked. Olga, calm down. I'm just having a friendly chat. Idris's eyes narrowed. Now. Zinab continued chopping like nothing happened. Later that evening, she stepped out to find Idris pacing near the fountain outside. You okay? She asked. He paused. What did he say to you? She shrugged. The usual nonsense. I ignored it. I'm sorry. He had no right. Zinab tilted her head. Why are you so worked up? I thought we were just co-parents. He looked at her for a long second. We are. She smiled knowingly. Then stop pacing like someone stole your bride price. He looked away. Tanya's voice echoed from upstairs. Mommy Zinab. Tara just poured juice in my shoe. Zinab sighed. That's my cue. She walked off. Idris watched her go, annoyed that her leaving made him feel empty. That night, Zinab found another note with her dinner tray. Thank you for not poisoning my friend. Idris. She laughed out loud. From his room upstairs, Idris heard it and smiled. It was supposed to be a simple Sunday outing. Nothing dramatic, just the park, some sunshine, maybe a few laughs. Idris had planned it in his head like a quiet family picnic. He even wore sunglasses to look relaxed. Big mistake. The moment Zinab came down the stairs, the entire atmosphere shifted. She wasn't trying to be dramatic, at least not on purpose.
She wore a soft floral blouse, jeans that fit her hips too perfectly for a casual Sunday, and her baby bump was sitting pretty, like it came straight out of a maternity fashion shoot.
Even Tanya gasped, "Mommy Zinab, you look like a princess." Tara added, "No, a queen." "No, wait, an expensive queen." Zinab laughed. "Is there a cheap queen somewhere?" "Yes." Tara shouted. "The one in my storybook that had torn shoes." Idris stood by the stairs, frozen like a glitching robot. "You're ready?" he asked. "Yes," she said, reaching for the picnic bag. "Is something wrong?"
"No," he said, blinking rapidly.
"Nothing is wrong."
The car ride was mostly quiet, except for Tanya, who kept singing the same made-up song.
"Our mommy is the finest mommy, even finer than Daddy's TV." At the amusement park, things got chaotic fast.
Tanya ran like a child who had just been released from prison.
Tara screamed, "I want cotton candy."
Before they had even found a bench, Zinab was chasing one twin with a juice bottle while begging the other not to climb the fence.
Idris was already sweating by the time they reached the first ride. Then it started.
Men staring at Zinab, ogling her body like perverts.
One security man walked past and said under his breath, "God, when?"
Another man offered to hold her purse, even though she was clearly carrying it just fine.
And then came the final straw.
One bold man in sunglasses walked right up to Zinab while she was helping Tara with her shoe.
"Hi," the man said. "You dropped something." Zinab looked up. "Dropped what?" He smiled. "My heart." Idris nearly choked on his own saliva.
Before Zinab could respond, Idris materialized behind her like a shadow from a ninja movie.
"She's married, pregnant, busy. Try someone else." The man raised his hands and backed off, muttering, "Sorry, boss." Zinab blinked. That was unnecessary. "I'm just protecting my investment," Idris said, a little too fast. Zinab turned to him. "What investment?"
"I thought this was a paper marriage."
"I didn't mean it like that," he mumbled.
As the day continued, Idris's mood got worse every time someone so much as looked at Zinab. When one boy asked her for directions, Idris followed him with his eyes until he disappeared into thin air. He was basically one compliment away from growling. At the playground, Tara fell and spilled her Fanta. Zinab bent down to clean her up, and Idris, standing beside a popcorn stand, quickly turned to face a tree.
Zinab looked up. "What are you doing?"
He stared straight at the tree trunk.
"Enjoying nature." She squinted. "The tree. It's very textured."
"Idris, are you jealous?"
He turned around too fast. "What? Me? Jealous? Please."
She stepped closer, whispering, "You've been breathing like a jealous dragon since morning."
He cleared his throat and picked up a balloon. "I'm just alert." "Oh, alert to who? The balloon man?"
Back at the house, the twins passed out on the couch, one holding popcorn, the other still wearing one shoe. Zinab changed into her house dress and headed to the kitchen for a late meal when Amaka walked in, holding a small envelope. "This came for you," she said with a grin.
"Olga is writing notes now." Zinab opened it.
Inside was a handwritten message.
"Maybe I was a little jealous, but can you blame me?
You looked happy today, and I realized I want to be the reason for that."
Zinab chuckled.
"This man is falling for me like fresh akara into hot oil." She folded the note carefully and slid it into her diary. She had been chased out, shamed, and made to beg for survival. But today she was being looked at, fought over in public.
Progress. Idris tried to act normal. He really did.
He greeted Zinab in the mornings like nothing was happening. He asked if the twins ate their vegetables. He nodded politely during dinner and pretended he wasn't stealing glances at her every 3 minutes.
But it wasn't working.
Zinab had gone from being the woman he picked off the roadside to the person whose laughter echoed in his head long after she went to bed. And she was doing nothing to help. That Thursday morning, she came down in a new maternity gown that hugged her belly in the most beautiful way. It was simple, elegant, soft blue cotton, but the way it clung to her body made Idris knock over his glass of juice at breakfast. The twins screamed, "Daddy is spilling like a baby."
Zinab laughed. "Are you okay?"
"Fine," Idris muttered, wiping the table too aggressively.
"Just gravity."
After breakfast, the girls left for school. Zinab stayed back to organize their closet, and Idris claimed to be working in his home office, but really, he kept checking the time like it owed him money. By 1 p.m., he finally cracked. He walked into the living room, hands in his pockets.
"Zinab," he said.
She looked up from folding socks.
"Yes?" "I've been thinking."
"Oh," she said, folding another sock.
"That usually means trouble." He ignored the jab.
"This arrangement, it's worked better than I expected."
She paused. "Okay. And you've handled everything with grace. The girls love you. The house feels alive again." Zinab blinked. "Idris, are you trying to fire me or propose to me?" He laughed awkwardly. "Neither. I just want to say, I don't think this should be temporary anymore." Zinab's eyes widened slightly. "You mean, I'm saying, maybe we should stop pretending we're just doing this for the kids?" There was a beat of silence, then two. Then Zinab burst out laughing, not a polite giggle, full-on bent-over wheezing laughter. Idris stared. "What's funny?"
She wiped her eyes.
You said stop pretending like we haven't both been sneaking glances at each other for weeks." "I see you, Idris. The way you look at me when I'm talking to the girls or when I'm scooping rice." He blinked. "There's something very attractive about the way you scoop rice." She raised a brow. "That's your love language? Food service?" He stepped closer. "I'm serious." She looked at him. Really looked at him. Gone was the cold businessman who barely made eye contact in the beginning. Now, this man standing in front of her was different, softer, warmer, flawed, real. "Me too," she said softly. "I stopped pretending a long time ago." Before either of them could say anything else, Tanya's voice rang from the entrance. "Mommy Zinab." "Daddy." "We're home early because the school power went off, and Tara said the fan was attacking her." They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Zinab laughed under her breath. Back to reality. That evening, as they all ate dinner, Tara announced, "Mommy Zinab is our mommy now. Daddy likes her more than his laptop." Tanya shouted, "We should do a wedding. With cake and glitter." Idris coughed. Zinab choked on her water. "Girls," he said carefully, "weddings are not things you just plan over stew." Tanya pouted. "Why not?" "I already told my teacher my mommy is pregnant and marrying my daddy." Zinab's spoon froze in midair. "You told your teacher what?" Tara nodded. "Miss Kate says, congratulations." Idris looked down at his food and muttered, "It's official. There's no going back." Later that night, he slipped another note under her door. "So, what flavor of wedding cake do you like?" Zinab picked up the note, pressed it to her chest, and whispered, "Vanilla. With plenty of glitter." The wedding day arrived quickly, and Zinab never thought she'd be a bride again. Definitely not in a living room where someone once threw Fanta into a shoe, and certainly not to a man who'd once spoken to her like she was a babysitting investment. But here she was, standing in front of a full-length mirror, wearing a cream-colored gown with lace at the sleeves and the tiniest sparkle on the waistline. Tanya gasped when she entered the room. "You look like Cinderella." Tara corrected, "No, Cinderella didn't have a baby in her tummy." "Then she looks like Princess Mommy." Zinab burst into laughter. "I'll take that." The house was decorated simply. White and gold ribbons lined the staircase. Flowers in soft pinks and yellows rested on tabletops. Nothing extravagant, just warm, soft, peaceful. The girls wore little matching gowns and tiaras. They took their job as little brides very seriously. Tara kept practicing how to toss imaginary petals,
while Tanya kept yelling, "Don't forget to smile at Daddy when you walk in."
Zinab gave up trying to correct them.
Meanwhile, Idris stood in his suit at the foot of the stairs, fidgeting with his cufflinks like a man who couldn't believe this was actually happening.
Dio was his best man.
Yes, the same Dio.
You see your life? Dio whispered, grinning. All that talk about no feelings and strict parenting partnership. And now look, you're out here in a suit, looking like a man about to cry.
Idris muttered, "Get lost."
But even he knew this was no longer an arrangement.
It had long passed that line. As soft music played, Zinab walked into the living room, hand in hand with the girls. Idris turned, and for a moment, time stood still.
She looked radiant. He looked stunned. Even Dio whispered, "Oh, oh."
The officiating minister, thankfully unaware of their full backstory, gave a short, sweet message. Then came the vows.
Idris took a deep breath. I didn't expect you. I didn't even believe I deserved someone like you.
But you've become my peace, my strength, and my joy.
You walked into chaos and brought laughter. I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel unloved again.
Zinab smiled through watery eyes.
You met me when I had nothing. No pride, no place to sleep, not even hope. But you saw me, and somehow you gave me a home again. I'm not marrying you because I need help anymore. I'm marrying you because I've fallen for the man you are.
The twins clapped before the minister even said, "You may now kiss the bride."
Everyone laughed.
Idris leaned in gently and kissed her forehead.
They didn't need anything more. Afterward, while people ate small chops and the twins dragged everyone into a chaotic dance circle, Dio pulled Idris aside. You're lucky, he said. This woman loves you deeply. Idris nodded. I know. Then Dio smirked.
But I still flirted with her first.
Idris stared at him. Dio laughed and walked away. Later that night, after the girls were asleep and the guests had gone, Zinab and Idris sat on the balcony under the night sky. You okay? He asked. I'm more than okay. Was it everything you imagined? She smiled. No, it was better, because I never imagined I'd be this happy again.
He took her hand and kissed her palm.
Then let's make it last forever. A few days after their wedding, Zinab gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The labor was long, loud, and dramatic.
Tanya insisted on packing her own hospital bag filled with biscuits and crayons, while Tara made a baby welcome song that she practiced at full volume in the living room for 2 days straight. But when it finally happened, everything stopped. The moment Zinab held her son in her arms for the first time, she cried. Not tears of pain or fear, but of healing. He was beautiful. Chubby cheeks, tiny fingers, and the softest little mouth she'd ever seen. They named him Malik. The twins wasted no time claiming ownership. He looks like me, Tanya declared, poking his nose gently. No, he looks like me, Tara insisted, holding his tiny foot. You're both wrong, Zinab said, exhausted but smiling. He looks like himself. But we're his big sisters, Tanya said proudly. We should decide what he likes. Idris just laughed. He didn't care who Malik looked like. As far as he was concerned, this baby boy was his son in every sense of the word. He loved him fiercely, completely. At night, Zinab would wake up and find Idris standing by the crib, just watching him sleep. Are you okay? She'd whisper. He'd nod. He grunts like a grown man. I love it. The house was chaos, but the good kind. Malik's cries filled the hallways. The twins argued over whose turn it was to sing lullabies, and Amaka threatened to resign every other Tuesday. One time, Zinab walked into the nursery and found Malik wearing a tiara and pink socks. Tanya, he needed accessories, she argued. Another day, Tara whispered, I think we should train him to be a superhero. How? Zinab asked, already bracing herself. Step 1, spoon him pepper soup so he can be strong. Idris nearly choked on his tea. Malik was adored, hugged too much, kissed too loudly, rocked too often. But he was surrounded by love.
Then, 1 year after his birth, Zinab fainted.
She was in the living room, folding tiny shirts, when the world spun and her knees buckled.
Idris caught her just in time. He didn't panic. Well, not on the outside. Inside, full panic. Hospital tests, blood work, scan. The doctor walked in with a smile too suspicious for Idris's liking.
"Congratulations, Mrs. Lanra," the doctor said calmly.
"You're pregnant." Zinab blinked. "Again?" The doctor nodded. "And it gets better. You're having twins." Idris stood up, then sat down again. "That can't be. We already did twins. There should be a law." Zinab stared at the scan. "Are you sure that machine isn't broken?" The doctor chuckled. "Positive. 2 strong heartbeats." Outside, the twins had followed them to the hospital and were eavesdropping from behind the waiting room curtain. "She's having 2 more." Tara gasped. Tanya screamed, "We're going to be 4 sisters." "I need more glitter." Idris rested his head on the wall. "Zinab, we're going to need a bus." "A full-size bus." Zinab covered her face. "We were supposed to raise the children we had." "Well," she said, reaching for his hand, "maybe then the children were meant to have a raising us too." She smiled, tired, shocked, but happy. Life had thrown her pain, then mercy, then joy. Now it was handing them diapers again, and they would take it together. The Bello household officially entered full madness mode with newborn twins crying in sync, Malik chasing after the sound of anything jingling, and Tanya acting like backup mothers with superhero complexes. The house was louder than a secondary school cafeteria during break time. Zinab could barely hear her own thoughts. Tanya would wake up at 5 a.m. sharp, not for school, but to inspect her head children. "Good morning, my royal babies," she'd say, in a British accent she picked up like from cartoons. "Let Auntie Tanya check your toes." Tara, not wanting him to be outdone, created a letter written on tights in colored pencil and then taped it into her nursery, to the nursery wall. She lists things like 7 a.m., wake up and make babies, with a song, 8:30 a.m., make them giggle, 9 a.m., tell her, them secrets, important. One day, Zab found Zinab them holding their tiny pants in a pair and saying, "They don't need, just a little." They whispered babies. They were so terrified they looked at her babies. "They're babies." Zab gasped. "They didn't even say babies." Meanwhile, Idris was no longer a man. No, he was now the official mummy, burper, mummy rinser, and lullaby DJ. One night, Zab walked in. Mummy found him humming off-key with mummy babies in mummy carrier strapped to mummy chest, mummy on his lap, and mummy cartoon playing in mummy background. His eyes were red. "Don't laugh," he warned. "I'm not laughing," she replied. But she laughed anyway. They barely had quiet moments, but when they did, they treasured them. Late nights, after all 5 children were asleep, finally, Zinab and Idris would sit on the floor of their room, back against the wall, sharing meat pie and juice like teenagers. "This wasn't the plan," Zinab said one night, resting her head on his shoulder. "No," Idris said, "but it's perfect." "Perfect?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "You mean the leaking diaper, the marker on my wall, or the fact that someone bit my shoe, and I still don't know who?" He laughed. "That just makes it ours." One afternoon, Dio came to visit and walked into the chaos. He took one look around, 2 babies crying, Malik dragging a pillow, Tara hanging paper decorations from the chandelier, and Tanya running around in a cape, and said, "So, I guess I'll come back another day." "No," Idris said, placing a baby in his arms. "You're staying." Dio froze. "What's its name?" Zinab smiled. "That one's Zara." Dio blinked. "She's chewing my tie." Zinab shrugged. "That means she likes you." But in the middle of the chaos, the laughter, the spills, and the cartoons on full blast, there was peace. Not the silent kind, but the kind that wraps itself around you like a warm blanket. The kind that says, "You made it." Zinab had gone from a roadside beggar to a woman with a home bursting with life and love.
She had cried, healed, and laughed louder than she ever thought possible.
And Idris?
He found more joy in tiny mismatched socks and sloppy baby kisses than he ever did in boardroom deals or shareholder meetings.
On their anniversary, they didn't go anywhere fancy.
They stayed home, cooked noodles, sat on the kitchen floor, and toasted with juice boxes.
To life, Zinab said.
To unexpected miracles, Idris replied. And just like that, their crazy, crowded, beautiful story continued.
Because love didn't always start with flowers. Sometimes, it started with a proposal on the side of a road. Thank you for watching With Innocent Stories. What do you think of this story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.
Tell us where you're watching from in the comments.
And until we bring another story your way, bye for now.